You guys get this question asked to you all the time, and I'll ask it here. What kind of fucked up stuff happened to you guys as children in order to come up with these ideas?
I think appropriately for me it was watching movies. I mean, if you want your kids to become horror filmmakers, then let them watch those movies when they're too young. I remember very specifically seeing Predator when I was a kid. For the first time, I snuck downstairs and watched it without my parents' permission. And the next day in school, our teacher asked us to draw something that inspired us, or just draw something. And I drew in color a picture of. It was the scene where Carl Weathers gets his arm blown off, and then the Predator stabs him in the gut and lifts him up. Next thing, I thought I did a pretty good job too, and it was a great rendition. And next thing I knew, I was in the principal's office, and they were checking me for bruises because they thought I was abused at home or something. I was like, no, I just watched this movie last night.
Well, when I was about 13, I started to touch. No, never mind. Let's see. Look, I'm to be perfectly honest. I've always felt like I've always felt. I think maybe a lot of people do. I've always felt like an outsider. I've always had incredibly mind-blowing low self-esteem. When I walk into this room and I look at you guys, I know you all hate me. I mean, I'm absolutely sure of it. I know I'm not the cool guy. I didn't get to write my Bloody Valentine or Rico a Genetic Opera. I'm not the cool guy, It's like, and that feeling of being like a loser and being like an outsider, and the overwhelming guilt I feel for everything I do. I mean, I don't mind. We're at Comic-Con. I can say I was a big-time fucking drug addict for a long time, and and there's a lot of guilt that comes along with that. A lot of it was stealing money and shit like that. And so I try to. It's just sort of naturally what comes out of me. It's just sort of. I have a dark heart. Fuck it.
Yeah, I don't know how I can follow that. Look, people I went to high school and college with and my family are still trying to figure out how I ended up a horror writer. I wasn't allowed to watch. I married him. I dated him. I grew up studying ballet, and I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies. I saw the Bug trailer when I was 5 and cried because I was so scared by it.
Bug?
Yeah.
In the William Castle movie?
Yeah. And I didn't watch scary movies. I wasn't allowed to. Like I said, I studied to be a ballerina. That was my aspiration. I got straight A's. I did spelling bees and stuff like that. I was a goody two-shoes and didn't take drugs or associate with people like him. And then we started writing together, and I'd always loved writing, and we started writing together, and these fucked up things I started coming up with. So, start writing. You'll never know when it comes out. It might scare
you. With me, I think it just, when I was growing up, it was, I had a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, I kind of grew up in this religious neighborhood and had a lot of questions about religion and stuff like that that I couldn't get answered. And the more I kind of looked into the human condition, I just, you don't have to look very far in history to see how fucking dark human beings are. And we all have a dark side, and I just find it fascinating to explore that. And horror movies do that, and lots of kinds of movies do that, but I just think it's just really fascinating to look into the human condition, because really, we were talking about movies up here, whether they're horror or not. It's all about humans, stories, characters. That's what builds a script. That's what makes them, emotional. And for me, growing up, just people and the fucked up shit that they do. And There's no end to it. It's always around us. Open up any newspaper, go on, surf online, and you find as many horror stories as you could possibly swing a stick at. And that's kind of where I get my inspiration.
Honestly, mine's pretty simple. My dad was a mortician, and so I grew up around it 24/7, 7 days a week. You know, seeing the things I saw when I was a kid was pretty awesome. And so it's pretty much been in my blood since then. And I could never get half the stuff I saw out of my head. So the only way to get it out of my head was to write it down and/or shoot it. Make my brothers jump into a freezer with a dead body in the board was always quite possibly the worst thing you could do, but also the most fun. And you know, that is really where it all came down for me. Was that's all I knew. Only thing I knew how to do was make people cringe. And my parents would never watch anything I made, and they still don't. Yeah, I mean, it's real simple. That's it.
What's the question?
What's our favorite ice cream?
What fucked up shit happened to you when you were a kid that makes you want to write?
I'm in it for the money.
All right.
I was in it for the money. There's a lot of money in this.
I need to find some of that because I still need to get some money.
Well, I don't have a lot.
This is gonna sound crazy, but it was Disneyland and Disney World. I'm not fucking around. And I'll tell you, I just got back from Disneyland again last week, and it reminded me why I got into filmmaking and specifically horror films. When I was a kid, my parents loved to go into amusement parks, and thus I loved going to them. And you look at it, people stand in line for hours to ride Space Mountain. Space Mountain lasts 30 seconds. Why does someone wait an hour in line to get on a 30-second ride? Because you're out of control in a safe environment. You feel sick to your stomach, you're being thrown around, but you know you're going to be safe when you get off that ride. And I've been trying to find that feeling my entire life, in my everyday life, as I do when I go to things like amusement parks. And I think that to me, horror filmmaking, that's what kind of led me to do this. A good horror film, a good script, can make you feel sick to your stomach in a very safe environment. I remember when I saw the movie Irreversible for the first time, I felt like I was going to throw up, like I felt the first time I was on Space Mountain. And so I think to me, Disneyland fucked me up so bad.
Yeah, I come at it from a little bit of a different approach. For me, you know, different horror creatures, horror tropes, things of that nature. I think they're cool, you know, and there was never a point where they actually really scared me. So my entrance into, I guess, the horror genre, science fiction genre, really came from my love for dinosaurs because they were real monsters. I mean, these things actually existed. So my thing was, man, you know, this is great, this is cool, they were real. And so when I came to horror, it's like, well, how can I make them cool? You know, where they buck conventions. So with Underworld, I kind of eschewed all the mysticism associated with vampires and werewolves. And since I have a degree in microbiology, my thing was to make it more scientific and therefore, you know, more interesting and more cool. And that's the way I really looked at it. So as a kid, it was just dinosaurs, you know, that really inspired me and made me say that, wow, you know, what if?
You have the coolest voice on the panel.